Hello and welcome back to the Arrow After Show, exclusively here on thestream.tv. I am your host, Jamie Philbrick, and we got a great episode to talk about tonight. It is Season 5, Episode 10, Who Are You? But first, let me introduce my sidekicks. To my right, the great David Moore.
Hello, greetings and salutations.
And to his immediate right,
Lewis Love here in the mix.
the Love Master. All right.
Dr. Love.
So tonight was a pretty cool episode, first back for this season, or for the
Yes.
mid-season. So the return of Laurel Lance.
Yeah.
What did we think, David?
You know, it had me like, what the frack? Like, you know, at first, but, you know, they cleared it up, and they cleared it up pretty quickly. Yeah. So, and I like what they did. I like how they handled it. So, you know, I'm pleased. I'm very pleased with what they gave us. And it's a good way to kick us off because, you know, leaving us with that cliffhanger, you know, before the mid-season finale, is like, what's happening? Feed me, I'm hungry, I need more. You know, so
Lewis, what'd you think, buddy?
I thought it was great. Like he said, it was handled well. And a lot of the fans, sometimes when they're watching TV shows, they want resolutions to things quickly. And that's what the show did. It resolved the issue quickly, you know, in one episode. And then, boom, back to Arrow. And it was great. It was done. Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. I mean, I think we knew a little bit of what was going to be happening in the episode from the trailers, the commercials that had been coming out. I think we all knew that this wasn't really Laurel Lance returning.
Right.
It's the Black Siren from Earth 2.
Yes.
So I thought that was great. And like you said, they really did sort of resolve that issue quickly in the episode.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. And it was also fun sort of seeing, you know, Katie Cassidy play evil again, you know?
That was very cool. I like, and you know, it's kind of cool because I mean, I feel like this is really something that the actors enjoy, being able to be the same, but not just gives them a lot to be able to flex their abilities with. And she did a great job. I bought it. It was really, really well done.
And going back to resolving the issues quickly, you know, it's the confidence the writers have in this great show that they don't have to, like, prolong a storyline through an entire season. They could just finish it on one episode and move on to the next great adventure in the DC universe. What do you think?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what also was cool about it is that everyone has a different reaction to her return, right?
Right.
So the recruits are like, wait, I thought she was dead.
Yeah.
What do you mean there's a second Earth and there's doppelgangers and there's all, you know what I mean? And then Felicity's reaction to seeing her come back, seeing Laurel back, and everyone had like a different reaction to it, which I thought was great. And then it also obviously plays into our season-long villain, Prometheus.
Right, right. And I like that you brought up the reactions because I was going to be really, really upset if everyone was just kind of like, welcome back, it's so great, it's a miracle, because they kept throwing around, it's a miracle, and, you know, but I like that Felicity in particular, holding on to the skepticism throughout the entire episode. I'm like, that's my girl.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's not make it all mushy and just forget. I had this issue with the Flash episode where it seems like people forget stuff that's happened in the past. It's like, no, we've been here before. We know something's up.
Well, there was a little bit of explaining in certain things, but we have characters set up in the plot of the show that can help sort of explain that. So we have the new recruits who can say, hey, what's going on here? I don't understand, you know, and kind of fill everyone in.
Yeah.
Speaking of different reaction, there's been a lot of question, a lot of chatter on the internet about, you know, her coming back and stuff. And you know, so that's been a lot. If you guys want to get in on the action, you know, you could go on your social media and go to ArrowAS. That's the hashtag, and ask us a question, right? And,
yeah, absolutely. I wanted to say before we moved on to the next subject, we want to hear from you. So please hashtag ArrowAS on Twitter and follow us on the YouTube. And we're going to be looking. David's going to be looking during the show. So if you guys have comments, interact with us. That's what we want. I also wanted to say about Black Siren and sort of ask you guys. I mean, when we saw the commercials, we saw her sort of return teased at the end of the last episode before the Christmas break. Did you guys know it was Black Siren? I mean, were you pretty sure? Or I mean, or are you glad that they sort of revealed that quickly and then kind of moved on from it?
I'm glad they did it quickly.
Yeah.
I thought, that was my first thought, like, well, that makes sense. She has a doppelganger, of course.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I didn't know if they were going to try to do something sneaky, do something slick, maybe just throw me for a complete loop. But I think because they went that route with the thing that probably most people were theorizing, I think it was smart on their behalf to reveal it soon in the episode.
They even really revealed it in the commercials
Right,
before, you know
right.
what I mean? Like most fans kind of checked that out. But I think accepted it because they knew, you know, it's not like, oh, it's the doppelganger. Like, she's been set up last season in Flash. So we knew she was out there. And I thought they did actually a good job of explaining how she got from Flash over to Arrow.
Yeah.
I would have preferred if they waited and not shown us in a commercial.
Yeah, I like that.
One thing I learned, you know, off the subject was Star Wars: The Force Awakens was so secretive, even though we know kind of, and it was just like it's so great to just not know.
Yeah.
But I guess you
Right.
have to tease the
Yeah,
stuff.
sometimes less is more with marketing.
But yeah,
you know?
I mean, but I'm also wondering if they really sort of did that on purpose to kind of
Let us know.
and also get people excited about
Right.
what could actually happen in all
Yeah.
those different terms.
Yeah.
So we mentioned Felicity and her sort of struggles in this episode, and the recruits also were trying to not only struggling with what's going on with Laurel returning, but also struggling with the death of Malone, and you know Felicity is pretty pissed, and
Yeah,
then
and
also we've got some
Mr.
things going on with
Terrific.
Mr. Terrific,
Yeah.
and really Wild Dog being the encouraging factor
and I liked
for Mr.
that.
Terrific.
I love that it was like the guy who we considered to be the happy-go-lucky jolly guy with, you know, like the badass of the group, you know. And I thought it was really good because I was getting kind of to the point where they seemed like just lackeys, you know.
Right.
But to have some good character development, you know, with Mr. Terrific, and you know, we know things have happened, and we already. I like that. They show that there are ramifications. You know, we already see that, of course, with like the time stuff that always goes on with these series.
Right.
But to see these super personal things going on within the time, you know, the what am I thinking? The timeline.
Time frame,
yeah. You know, I really like that. You know, he is struggling with this, and it is an issue, and it's ripping him at the core. It's nothing to do with the rest of the group, but it's his own personal demon. But again, to see Wild Dog be the person who's coming in, you know, that was really cool, and it really helps reinforce the fact that they are a team.
Yeah.
What do you think about the recruits this season?
Look, I think it's awesome. Like he touched upon about how like it was a surprise who's being motivated. The multi-dimensions in the characters is what makes these shows great. From Flash to Arrow to Legends,
Supergirl, yeah,
Supergirl.
totally.
You know, it's like we don't know. Everything's not just black and white. It's gray. It's you know, it's a lot. You know, we don't know.
Well, I
it's a
think that's
ride.
one of the great things with all of these shows, and you really pointed that out right there with what you're saying, especially I think with Arrow and Flash and Legends and Supergirl, so all of them, that you've got these great characters from dozens of decades of, you know, pantheon of DC Comics, and then you're casting fantastic actors who interpret these characters differently. And every character that comes together has a different actor playing it, interpreting those relationships differently. So that's why I think, especially on this show, but Legends and all of them as well, is that you have actors playing these different characters that maybe didn't get together in the comics. Like, I don't remember Wild Dog spending a lot of time with Ragman and Mr. Terrific in the comic books, but those actors have brought different dimensions out of those characters that really work well on the show.
Speaking of relationships, Oliver and Felicity clashing.
Yeah.
I loved it. I personally thought it was great. What did you think?
Well, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of friction in that relationship over the last 2 seasons. I mean, they were almost married, and they weren't married. And then
Right.
she lost the ability to walk, and then she could walk again. And then, so there's a lot going on. And she lost her new boyfriend, Bobby, and obviously Oliver's lost Laurel and other people. So there's a lot of, pretty much everyone he's ever met. So there's a lot of friction there between the two of them. And, you know, it's about time that they sort of kind of exploded on each other, especially Felicity. What did you think about that, Larry?
I think it's great, especially there's a little bit of a spoiler here, but the scene where he's teaching her how to fight, you know, to me, as someone who practiced martial arts, that's when you really know someone is when they're, you know, hitting the bag or exhausted, and he's teaching her. So that's like a more intimate, in my opinion.
You know what?
Yeah.
Just super nerd factoid.
Yeah.
Remember in The Matrix, that was Seraph's line, you don't truly know someone until you fight them.
Right,
I love
and then
that.
there was even a Matrix line tonight on the
Yes,
show.
he called it
Where was it?
Trinity.
Felicity called Black Siren. Hey, who was it?
It was
Wild Dog.
Wild Dog.
It was Wild
It's like,
Dog.
what's up,
yeah.
Trinity?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I got to bring this up because I
Please.
think that this was really important to the whole relationships and the character development. I like the fact that Felicity and Oliver were trying to achieve sort of the same goal,
But going about it in
two
different
very
ways.
different
Right.
ways. And again, that kind of feeds into the characters, who they are, how Oliver...
And it shows the
even-
differences between
exactly,
Felicity and Oliver,
and it's
yeah.
also showing their development. Because in this episode, Oliver was acting like old Felicity, and Felicity was acting like old Oliver.
You know, you're totally right. I didn't even pick up on that, but
some
there
good
was like a
character
reversal of
development. Yeah.
sort of how they've acted throughout the last couple seasons.
Again, the shows are roller coasters. You don't know where they're going. It's multi-dimensional, diverse characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just not going one way. They'll be going in a straight line, and then the next episode, they turn right, and then go back, and then go sideways. So that's why these shows are so popular, and that's why we love talking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
it is.
Well, another, I thought really cool subplot in this story, or in this episode, was the John Diggle in jail and Adrian Chase kind of at
Why they
Oliver's
keep putting the
behest.
brothers in jail,
Yeah,
man?
yeah, coming to
he
his
came
rescue.
in, he got out, now he back in jail, man. I'm not fit. I'm just playing.
Well, no, let me ask you this, because I think that's a good point. I haven't been feeling the John Diggle in jail storyline this season.
Yeah.
Now that Adrian's involved and we sort of see some stuff happening there, I'm a little bit more interested. Obviously, he's been framed for this, and that general's out to get him. So I'm starting to warm up to it a little bit, but
Right.
certainly the whole earlier part of the season where they had to break him out of jail and all that kind of stuff, and he was a fugitive. And
Yeah.
was he living in like a cave with Wild Dog or something? I don't know. So but tonight I think they started to sell me on the direction they're going with
Right.
it. Did you
That's
feel
what
like
was
that?
Right on point
Okay.
with you. Like, I think that we're now seeing this is a means to get us to an end in regards to learning more about the DA, Chase.
Right,
I
Agent
think
Chase.
I think that this is a vessel to get us to, this world's Harvey Dent, if you will. You know.
Interesting,
And
right.
I liked it because in the whole situation with Diggle in jail, it was Chase that I was like, he's dope.
Yeah.
He's a gangster. Like, going up almost against like the president, if you will. You know,
Right.
that kind of authority, but all in the true name of justice. You know, and I like that he's still kind of walking that line where he's like, sometimes we got to keep secrets to keep the
Yeah.
peace, and but it's all for the good.
And as comic book fans know, spoiler alert, but Adrian Chase is Vigilante, the character that Diggle and Oliver were actually almost caught at the
Right.
beginning of the Invasion crossover.
Right, right.
So it's going to be, I think there's some really cool setup stuff between Adrian and Oliver and Diggle. What do you think?
I think it's great. I love the way this world, like he said earlier, parallels kind of like, the Dark Knight. This world's Harvey Dent.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Certainly Arrow, yeah. There is
Yeah.
definitely, I think Arrow is the Batman of the Arrowverse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, we can't bring Batman on, but here you go, wink,
Right.
wink. This is I love that, and it's like the show's a lot of reminds me a lot of Christopher Nolan's Batman.
Okay. Yeah.
And I love Christopher Nolan's Batman. Anyone who knows me, I'm like a fanboy for those films. So I'm.
Well, who isn't? I mean, come
Right.
on, right? Dark Knight's the greatest superhero movie ever made. So.
Boom.
There you
Boom.
go.
Uh-oh.
There you
You
go.
know
Just
what?
drop that.
I
Just
want to
drop
see.
that.
Hey, I want y'all to write in about that. How do you
What's
feel
your
about
favorite?
what's your favorite?
So,
Batman Begins.
yeah, and the other thing I wanted to just mention real quick about because you mentioned Adrian had this great line where the general is sort of threatening him and is like, well, I'm going to have the president send you this thing, and he just goes, well, I've always wanted her autograph.
Right?
I mean, there was some cool
Drop the
one-liners.
mic.
Yeah, drop the mic.
What?
Boom.
Yes, I love
there's
that.
some
I
cool
love
lines there.
that.
So we also tonight had, as we always do on Arrow, flashbacks. Although, as we know, the 5-year flashbacks are going to end at the end of this season. But we're
God.
back
I'm
in.
sorry.
I mean, that's worth discussing.
Yeah.
I think the flashbacks have picked up this season.
Okay.
I think we're back to kind of having it as a good storyline as it was in the second season, first and
True,
second.
true.
It was a device that I think they didn't need in season 3 and 4 and didn't know
Right.
what to do with it. And now I
Right.
feel like they know what their end game is with that.
Exactly.
Do you feel that it's coming a little stronger now that we're towards the end?
I was never really a fan of the flashbacks because it's like, they're holding a gun in his head. It's like, well, we know he survives. So I'm kind of like, I know, there's no sense of danger for me.
Right,
there
right.
at that point.
Right, because we know.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we know. So
No
it was kind
stakes.
of like, that's like the only part of Arrow that I'm kind of like, it's all right. You know?
Yeah. Well, but like I said, I mean, I think most Arrow fans probably agree to a certain degree with that. But I mean, as a hardcore Arrow fan, I do think that they have really hit the accelerator this season, knowing that the flashbacks are ending and really giving us some strong stuff. Obviously, we didn't, unfortunately, get a Dolph Lundgren appearance tonight. It's Constantine Kovar. I would have loved that. But, the Brava guys were just beating the bloody...
He had a blood beard.
I mean, yeah, that's what it was.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like to piggyback off what both of you guys were saying, like knowing they have an end game. That's what it is, because now, much like how it was with like the first 2 seasons of Arrow when they did the flashbacks, they have a strong resonance into the present. Right. At first it was kind of like, how's he gonna know how to pick this lock? Oh, he learned how to pick it 5 years ago. Got it. But now
he's got to go up against magic. He met John Constantine.
Exactly. But now, with what we get revealed, I mean, we already knew this was happening.
So the big reveal, there are actually 2 kind of reveals at the end of this episode, but there was a flashback reveal, and that reveal had basically... Oliver was locked in this basement where he's getting the whatever beat out of him. Yeah. And then he hears gunshots up above, so someone's taking out the Russian Brava guys. Yeah. And then who comes to his rescue? Someone dressed like the Green Arrow. At first, in his sort of foggy state, it is Laurel. Yeah. That's who he sees. We see Katie Cassidy in the Green Arrow suit, which actually is pretty cool. We've never seen Katie Cassidy in the Green Arrow costume. Right. But it's, of course, revealed that it is Talia al Ghul. Speaking of the Dark Knight series of films, who we saw appear in The Dark Knight Rises.
One of the best villains.
And we've seen Talia in the Arrowverse before. She
Batman
made
baby mama.
a little cameo in Legends of Tomorrow last season. And so, David, you brought up a great point earlier when we were talking about this, because my whole thing has been, we saw on Legends Talia in 1956, 57, about 10 years old. Yeah. So the woman that we saw tonight from 5 years ago is probably around 35, maybe 40, maybe 30, somewhere in that range. Yeah. But you brought up the great point of how she can still look like that because of
the Lazarus Pit.
I'm kicking myself as a hardcore DC fan. I didn't even think of the Lazarus Pit.
Especially because, and some of you guys might be thinking out there, but they blew up the Lazarus Pit. They can't use. This is the flashback. Back then, it was still around. So yeah, she could be 100 years old and still look like she's 30. So she is an Al Ghul, so she has access to she can use it like a day
What do you think about them bringing Talia in at this point on the show?
Well, it's awesome because it's the parallel. It's a weekly kind of Batman-ish show. Right. So I think it's awesome. You touched upon something interesting too. I think we spoke is like, hey, she looked like Arrow, but I didn't realize because these are the guys, these are the people, the
League of Shadows,
the League of Assassins. They call them on
League
Arrow.
of Assassins. Yeah.
On Arrow. These are the guys where he got inspired. Right. So it totally makes sense. Right. If we go back to the Nolan Batmans. The League over there, he was using their gear in the film, so it totally makes sense. Right. Very well thought of, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I really am interested to see where they go with Talia the rest of the season. Seems that she'll be relegated to the flashbacks, but you never know. And obviously there's the connections with Nyssa, who's became really a big part of the group on the show, the Arrow. Team Arrow, right? So it'll be interesting to see if she does make it from the flashbacks to the present day and how that sort of affects everyone. The last thoughts about Talia, David?
I hope she's as fine as Nyssa.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
I got one. Yeah. Don't mess with our ghouls.
No, you don't mess with them.
Don't mess with them.
You don't mess with them.
I just need to
mess with them.
I'm just checking up on Twitter and the live chat people. Feedback. Give us your feedback. Let us know. Get on conversation. Hashtag ArrowAS on Twitter. And then the live chat's going on right now. Give us your questions, your thoughts, your theories. We want to know. We want you in on the conversation.
Let us know what's happening. The last big reveal tonight. So basically, and at first I wasn't really sure where this was going, but Team Arrow decided that they're going to find another Black Canary. I don't know quite how that's going to work, but they were searching, and then we get this sort of shot from Hub City, which, as you noted earlier, is the home of the Question. Vic Sage from the comic books. So maybe the Question's coming, who knows? But we see this girl in a bar, and she doesn't like the way some of the drunken guys are acting. She beats them up, and we hear a scream as they come flying out of the windows, right?
Yeah.
So it would seem that there's another Black Canary out there.
Right.
What do you think about that? How will it be explained? Is this a doppelganger? Is this someone else who got hit with the Central City Star
That's what I'm
Labs?
thinking. I'm thinking it's another meta, like, so not necessarily anybody's doppelganger.
Right.
But there are metas who have the same powers, so different person, same ability. I think that's what we're dealing with here. She's a meta who happens to have the same ability as the evil Laurel, the Black Siren, had on the other Earth.
Yeah. What do you think,
I'm gonna
Louis?
think possible tie-in Talia al Ghul and her something.
You think it has to do with Talia?
Something is gonna happen.
Oh, that's interesting.
What a coincidence! They both get teased.
They both get teased at the end.
I'm gonna say something.
Yeah.
There's a collision. They're on collision course. But it's great how both, all the shows have like this team, And I'm wondering, man, maybe in the future, like this real big threat is gonna, require all the show's heroes, all the teams to get together. Maybe Darkseid.
You mean something like the Dominators? Like we
Yeah,
already had.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you're saying we want another crossover.
Yeah, another.
Well, of course we
Look
want
at all the
another
teams.
crossover.
I mean, look at this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted, while we were talking about Black Canary, Black Siren, and we'll sort of end on this, but I was thinking, like, she's such a pivotal character to Oliver Queen and the Green Arrow mythology from the comic books. And I know a lot of fans have been maybe not pleased with the way the character has been treated over the years and has been killed and wasn't really a Black Canary first, and then Sarah was. And I think we can all agree Sarah Lance is a character that has been created for the shows, is fantastic. And we love White Canary. But how do you feel about sort of the way Black Canary has been treated, the way Dinah Laurel Lance has been treated, and what do you think about sort of making up a new Black Canary?
Look, I'm good with it because in reality, there's different comics. There's different version of every character. Every comic you open, there's different stories. So when people go, hey, I didn't like this movie because it's like, oh, Batman wasn't done just like the comics. Like, well, I read a comic where Batman's a zombie.
Right.
Do you want that one?
Batman's a vampire. Batman's a pirate. We've seen it all.
This is world, whatever Arrow's world is, and this is the way it is. If you like the other version, that's why, these shows are great because your version exists. Your Earth exists with your perfect interpretation of maybe another Arrow.
Yep.
The way.
No, I mean, I think that's a perfect point, and I think that's something that I've heard all the writers and producers sort of talk about too when they talk about maybe complaints from fans that this isn't how it happened in the comic. This isn't. Well, this isn't the comics. If you want those comic stories, go back and read those comic stories. They're fantastic. There's a reason they've lasted as long as they have in our culture. But this is taking these characters, casting actors to portray them and their emotions in a different way, the way the writers write it. And obviously Felicity was a fourth-tier character who was Ronnie Raymond's mom in the comics, Firestorm's stepmom, right? And now she's become like this pivotal character in the whole Arrowverse. And what they've done with the relationship with that is great. And so I think it's great when the show gets the freedom and we as the fans allow the creators, the writers and producers that.
Exactly.
And just because this story is different, it doesn't erase the story you love.
Right.
It still exists. And if ever Arrow ends, hopefully it never does, but when it does, maybe the reboot and it's exactly that version.
Sure.
Everything.
Well, Flash has played with the ideas of different timelines and different. Obviously, so they have kind of set that whole world up as well. Do we have any Twitter questions? Do we have anything from the fans we want to go to?
On the live chat, David Fams, good name, David. He says, I feel like Oliver needs some new romance in his life. I don't like the reporter.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people thought the reporter was the new relationship, was the new setup after Felicity. But we don't like that, so you can't have both ways.
Yeah, and the fact that they were tugging at everybody's heartstrings with, this the doppelganger in this episode and how Oliver was, he's catching the feels again, so who knows what they're gonna do. I'd like him kind of having a break, just focusing. There's so much going on. focus on the team, focus on what it is you got to do, what you got to handle, and then if love should prevail. Then,
Right, exactly.
cool.
Yeah. If it happens organically.
I'm still team Olicity.
I mean, always.
I'm always team
Always.
Olicity.
There's a lot on the Facebook. There's a lot of praising this episode. People love Felicity.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's what I'm getting there, and
was a
people
strong
are chatting.
episode.
Yeah, they really liked it. This
Yeah.
episode.
Very cool.
It was a strong episode, and guess what? Here's my segue. This was a strong episode.
Boom!
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 Of
There
the
it
Arrow
is.
After Show. Thank you so much for joining us right here on. I'm getting signs from the back. I'm getting distracted. Thank you for joining us right here on thestream.tv, and we want to give a special shout out to our friend Lance Osferser. I can't say it, Lance. I apologize for butchering your name, but Lance runs this great Facebook site for all of our Facebook pages, and we thank him for all his support. Please go to those pages. Please check them out. Please check us out next week when we have a whole new episode of Arrow. I'm Jamie Philbrick.
David Moore.
Louis Loeb.
Thank you, guys.